Welcome back.
Well,
this is 2026.
Yes.
And no more terrorism. Ayo.
No more. No more.
Last year I labeled you a terrorist.
Yes. And I have been vindicated.
Thank God we are talking about security now. So
first, we have to, I think we need to do this, Joke. We need to recognize that there are some people always on the front line for us. Yeah. Defending the territorial integrity of Nigeria, that's the military, and also maintaining peace, law, and order, that is the police. And, of course, every other ancillary agency doing all the things that they need to do to keep us safe. So we acknowledge you, and we appreciate you.
Yes, kudos.
So many of them didn't really have their nights, at home and with their families like everyone else.
And like they say everywhere, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
So now, as we navigate the complexities of 2026, Nigeria's security landscape presents a multifaceted challenge. The country faces a convergence of threats, evolving Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast to banditry and kidnapping in the rural expanses and emerging cyber threats that test our national resilience. Thankfully, the president has made a declaration, and it will seem that even the National Assembly has lined up behind the president in that, proposing, possibly even passing a bill to correct the law, a terrorism law, to say, look, anything that looks like it is it. Banditry is terrorism, kidnapping is terrorism, anything that threatens our national peace is labeled as a terrorist, so to speak, particularly within our country. Let's take a look at the security landscape in 2026 and what is likely to play out. With two gentlemen joining us this morning. Dr. Seyi Adetayo is a former AC's regional vice president and head security and security intelligence expert. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. And
yeah, we should say Professor Ademola Abbas also joins us. He is a professor of international law and global security. We appreciate your time this morning, Prof. Happy New Year.
Okay. Good morning. If you can hear me, you are a bit low. You please speak a bit louder. I can hear you clearly.
Well, last day we said Happy New Year to you.
No, I can hear you. Same to you. I wish you same.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Adetayo, let me begin with you. Your general assessment. It would seem like the president or the federal government just said, you know what, enough of this. Calling a spade by any other name. Let's call a spade what it is. A terrorist is a terrorist, and all of that. Do you think that the way we closed the year is a foretaste of glory divine?
Well, good morning, and good morning to all the viewers. Let me put it this way. So what we don't appreciate is the fact that what did not happen, they're actually far much more than those that happened. And those that did not happen, we must give credence to our security forces, the intelligence services for their preventive actions, the police for providing the support, acting on the intelligence, and our armed forces responding to those actions, to those actionable intelligence in a way that prevented, millions or thousands of events that could have made 2025, a bad year for us. So I must say that they have done well, and we ended the year in a glorious way. No Christmas Day attack, no New Year Day attack. And if you look at, travel to the southeast during this Yuletide period was huge and large, and it was peaceful generally. And I saw lots of people, traveling to the southeast, traveling to the north for the festive period. And they were actually happy to do that. And I don't think that we've actually had such. Remember, no police escorts. In spite of no police escorts, the roads were blocked because people were heading home. And we didn't have this kind of experience 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So the year ended very, very well for us.
Prof, do you share the same sentiments as Dr. Adetayo?
Well, sorry, I wouldn't mind if you repeat the question. It was when it was on very low. I couldn't hear the question very well.
Okay, well, it was really pretty much asking if the president's recategorization of what terrorism is is anywhere, in any way, manner, shape, or form, gives us a hope that, okay, we finally have a concerted effort at fighting insecurity. Did we close the year right? And does it give us a foretaste of what's to come?
Well, thank you very much. I think, yes, I had the gentleman's response. I think we can be proud of how we closed the year. There are still a lot of room for improvement, a lot of things left to be done. But I think the president has decided now to take the bull by the horn. Obviously, there have been a lot of activities also from outside the country, which have contributed in no small way in the country finally waking up, so to say, to becoming more decisive in how we deal with this very terrible incident of criminality, of terrorism that we've had for quite a long time now. I mean, if you look at what the government has done, what the president has done, especially towards the end of the year, we can say, well, it gives a lot of hope to the future. Is it in terms of, establishing, for instance, the forest guard, or going after, Senate to make sure they make state policing and some other things like that to become a reality as soon as possible. And there's a panoply of activities that we witnessed towards the end of the year, including some military operation intervention here and there. And I think that we can say that while there is still a lot of room for us to be able to expand, I think the year closed, I would say, on a very great note of hope. Let's put it at best, that we should be hopeful of what is to now follow from this particular year. I think let's say ended on a great note of very cautious hope, I would say.
Cautious optimism. This is the second time we're hearing it on this program this morning.
Yes, first was about the economy, now about security. During the president's speech, if I can come to you, Mr. Aditayo, he spoke about, security formed a large part of his New Year message on January 1. And he said that there's now a lot of technology-driven intelligence gathering and interventions that have given us a more robust and holistic approach to insecurity, and it's really, there are a lot of successes. A lot of state police commands and all that at the end of the year, they were also given account of, their success stories. At some point, I think on Friday or so, there was also, I think the customs also seized a large cache of, I can't remember which, some, thing that they seized. And it shows that security, there's a lot of work going on in the background. So what do you see, for 2026, going into the new year, where security is concerned?
Okay, let me write on what Professor Abbas said, cautious optimism. I see a lot happening in the new year, and but at the same time, we should not expect El Dorado just so soon. We're dealing with something that has been on ground for a long time, and the roots and tentacles had already spread into the ground. So it will take a while for us to be able to root out this menace in our society. However, if you follow and continue with this current momentum and decide to, improve on it, I see 2026 ending better than 2025. We shouldn't forget the fact that the people we're also dealing with, they are also smart and intelligent. And every day, the evil people also try to, devise new ways to use the word counterbalance, the efforts of the government to ensure that they also appear, strong and effective, because they're also making money through these activities. And also, those who have the penchant of inviting criminals and bad people into Nigeria, the way the government handled, things towards the late end of last year, which I believe is already sending signals to people like that. And if that momentum is sustained, I'm sure that there will be reduction in such activities. Remember this Lakurawa people. The mercenaries invited by someone into Nigeria, one Mr. Isalako, and for them to help him to, fight cattle rustlers, and it later became, a menace to the society. In fact, the person who invited them, they killed the person and took over his kingdom, his environment, and they later became the ISIS now that the rocket fired, had to destroy. So this is to tell you how our own people, Nigerians, for their own selfish reason, bring people that are becoming menace, to us, into the society.
Unfortunately, Dr. Adeoye, I beg your pardon, Dr. Atitayo, while the point is made, but it's to a large extent, hitherto, previously, it would seem like the governments, federal, state, or local, allowed it to happen because people became their own local government chairmen. They became their own water providers. They became their own security providers. So it's like, to your tent, O Israel. If no one takes care of me, I'm going to have to take care of these things myself. So given the way both of you have agreed that we ended the year on a high, and you've said, if we sustain the momentum, question is, how do we sustain the momentum? And please don't tell me it's just the federal government that has to do this.
So it's just what I said. See, we as citizens, we also have a responsibility. You see, government will do its part. We should also hold government accountable. Because one thing is for us to say, okay, yes, government has a responsibility, but we should also continue to check and also remind government that we are also taking
Which government? Because people excuse the fact that the federal government controls all everything, security apparatus, and consequently, we got nothing to do. We're just going to sit here and wait until the federal government does something. Does that mean that the state governments don't have any responsibility in security?
Oh, if that's the momentum we're talking about. You can see that there was a change. We're experiencing change in the mindset at the state government level, in terms of now being responsible and responsive to issues in their various states. And I say the most important is that if you have a commander-in-chief, that understands, that knows his onions, and that is presidential in nature, and be able to reel in all the state governors to say, you know what, I won't shy away in declaring state of emergency. So he has done it, they've seen that this man will not. He will, he can't declare. So we're not saying state government now, responding now and now being responsive. And we can see that synergy between the Office of the National Security Advisor and state government in terms of decision making. The habit was coming towards the end, of the year. But the reality is now dawning on everybody that you have to work together. So I want to see a better alignment in 2026 in terms of, our national security, objectives and direction in handling these terrorist activities. Now, there's nowhere to hide. They've been declared terrorists. So for a state government to do something different from what the federal government is doing now, that means that you are working in opposition against national security objectives.
Okay, and that also leads to this question, Prof. So the president more than once has talked about the fact that, spoken about state police. And it's something that we've debated for quite a while. A good number of Nigerians have spoken about the need for it. There have been efforts made, constitutional review efforts made, but which never really saw the light of day. What are your hopes in that regard this time around? We know that there are still some state governments come up with some quasi-security outfits here and there, neighborhood watch here, and there's one beautiful one they have, Hisba, I think, in the north, in Kano State and all of that. So what are your hopes of integrating more security awareness and operations at the state level in this year 2026?
Well, Ayo, thank you very much. That's a very pivotal question. And that is because we've, I think, dealt with that issue several times in different forms on this program, on the channel. Look, we have a very peculiar federal system we operate in Nigeria, which we have acknowledged over and over again. So it also percolates to the area of security. But what we must never forget to advert our mind to is the fact that the states in Nigeria have become incredibly lazy and deliberately lazy, and they always wait on the federal government to take a lead in anything before they do it. Not because they don't have constitutional power to do it, but they hide under the kind of federalism that we operate to become quite indolent themselves, to become quite lazy themselves and focus on things that don't really matter a lot to their citizens at the end of the day. They have to acquire nonsenses here and there and stuff like that. Look, at the moment, you see the federal government taking some lead in some areas. So, we have military operations all over the place. For instance, we have Operation Sahel Sanity going on. We have Operation Hadarin Daji going on, and so many other things like that. There is an establishment of Armed Forces Guard, as an example. Armed Forest Guard that the federal government is talking about to legitimize an armed, forest guard to be able to go after terrorists. And then there's also a move from the federal government towards the enhancement of law enforcement, capacity, which we see in the deployment of technology, drones in area surveillance, artificial intelligence, data and financial intelligence, and so many other things. But that stops sometimes at the level of the federal government. What do the states do? When you boil it down to states, you then begin to think that states can actually play a critical role, as an example, in the issue of community and governance strategies. The federal government doesn't have to come down. All the federal government has to do is to be able to push, and they are pushing through the issue of state policing, but to be implemented at the state level. Are the states prepared for it? The state should be able to use local vigilante, community policing as part of their own particular strategies, in ensuring that community policing tackles so many of these. What about intelligent gathering and sharing? Those are things that states could play critical roles in. What about legislature? As an example, you don't have to wait for the National Assembly per se to act. States can on their own take some particular measures to legislate in some areas. Either kidnapping when they are prosecuting kidnappers on their state. For instance, the federal government is making a move now to bring in the death sentence against kidnappers and stuff like that. What are states doing? What about states want state policing? Are they even advocating it at all? Now, both the federal government and state, they will have to also be active in terms of addressing the root causes of criminality, of terrorism itself. Because, you can do all this, you can do all military intervention and this and that, but there must also be deliberate activities, deliberate measures and actions in terms of socio-economic programs, because there are drivers of insecurity. Don't forget, you have things like poverty, you have things like unemployment, lack of education strategies here and there. What are states doing about all this? States now, citizens will have to start calling their state governments to serious accountability. I think we have allowed governors to get away with murder and a lot of, short of saying, criminality in this country. Because at the end of the day, a governor of a state is the chief security officer of his or her state in this country. But they don't behave as such. They always defy everything to the federal government. And the federal government is actually getting a lot bogged down on this activity that the state could play a pivotal role. What about local governments? We know there is still a debacle between local government autonomy and the state and this and that, but you know what? You can fight among yourself as far as resources are being shared and stuff like that, but people want to be comfortable, they want to feel safe in their environment, they want to be able to go about their businesses. Nothing stops states, as an example, from deploying technologies. Yes, drone and area surveillance, artificial intelligence, data and financial intelligence to be able to trace criminal money. Where did the money come from? Where are they going to? States can organize things like, biometric and identification. What are states doing? They can do all those. They shouldn't leave everything to the federal government, because at the end of the day, when you keep on doing that, they keep on kicking the can down the road. Oh, it's federal government. Oh, this is federal government. No. It's high time people began to seriously take their government toward. And I'm not talking about parsimoniously now. And we've been too parsimonious in Nigeria at the end of the day. We don't have to be waiting for outsiders to come and tell us to stand up to our responsibility. We just are not doing enough. State governments all over the country are not doing enough. And that is because they've not been held to accountability at the same level that Nigerians are holding the federal government accountable. And whether you like it or not, the federal government is beginning to move. It's beginning to show people that, whether we are doing something, partner with us, join with us. But the federal government is doing that, but the states are still lagging considerably behind in that. And that is where the real challenge about how we see the future of fighting criminality and terrorism in Nigeria, goes.
Let's see, how do we guardrail some activities of state governments? Yeah. Well, a good number of Nigerians believe that the governors are not doing enough, the state governments are not doing enough in that regard. But we also know that it's based on the argument of some state governments, Dr. Adetayo, that the only way they could, fight at least protect the lives and property of their people in previous years, is to invite mercenaries, like the example that you gave the other time, and sometimes in some cases have conversations with bandits. We have, of course, interviewed military authorities who said, we don't think it's a good idea to, interface with bandits in any way, manner, shape, or form. So how do we guardrail our security, strategy or whatever it is in a way that we insulate ourselves from such recurrences?
I think the problem can be situated to when we allow everything and all things during electioneering campaign, where, whatever you can do to win election, if you have to go and cut criminals, harm bandits and the rest for election, and when you get there, you have no choice than to continue, to pamper and relate with them. Or when you want to go for the next election, you feel that you are going to lose, and you believe that, oh, if I can get these people because they control, they can easily instill fear, or the areas where they control, they govern, if they are on my side, they can make sure that they turn in votes. If we stop allowing that, then we'll have a situation where some state governors can be able to align easily with federal government's objectives on how to tackle or how the direction of federal government. And I'll give an example. You see, we all know how all these things started right from Boko Haram, where it was believed that the state government, patronized them during election. The people you patronize that gave you victory, you can't have your second time if they are no longer with you. So when they begin to kill, the only option open to you is to try to say, can I go and negotiate with them? And that is what we're saying. That it's likely it's not because of the fear that the federal government cannot tackle this. But sometimes they're also looking at how can this profit them, or how will this affect them in the next electionary campaign. And that's what I said that when I was talking about what we've seen, most importantly in the last half of last year, where we're seeing the redirection in terms of, them reading the body language, not just the body language, the spoken words of the president, that is no longer going to be, business as usual. This is the direction I'm going, and then you have to. And he has shown them that I can do it without you as a state governor. If you are not ready to align with my, security plan, I can go ahead. And we can see that this president is not only working within, he's also working without too. We've seen, this is for the first time to me. And I told some friends, I said, why Trump decided to shoot fire from the sea and not sending an aircraft is to also show these people that wherever you are, my rocket can reach you. He decided to shoot from, the sea to show that whether you are in Burkina Faso or you are in Mali, we are just starting from those in Nigeria. When we root out Nigeria, we can also reach you where you are. And that is also a message. And I say that president's action, aligning with the U.S., should give encouragement to state governors that align with me. This direction we're going, we can deal with this. Initially they said, oh, they misfired, they hit until, I told people, I said, calm down. Let us wait for the battle damage assessment. That you say that this thing will hit the target and the number of them. And you see what happened? NAF did a lot. They've been working before that time. But immediately it happened, Boko Haram, NAF decided to attack Boko Haram enclave, in the northeast, and lots of them were killed. The same thing in Zamfara, the same thing in Niger State. That's why I say, if they continue with this momentum, we're going to see a better 2020. It's not, we shouldn't expect an El Dorado, that this thing will disappear, this year. But number one, they are going to reduce the capacity, the numbers of those people this year. That is number one. Then number two is the fact that the numbers of incidents we recorded 2025 will be reduced this year. And like I said, December, Christmas, New Year, later period was largely peaceful. It's not that things didn't want to happen, not that there weren't plans for things to happen, but because the security agencies, most importantly, the DSS intelligence, police acting on those intelligence made this period to be peaceful. The things we escaped are far more than those that happened that we saw.
Interesting.
Right. You know, not that we scored the nation high on how we ended the year 2025, that there was not so many incidences, but there were some, like in Plateau State. I think there was an attack on a community on Christmas Eve, I think, and one or two other, and then KB as well. Also, I think there was an attack there at some point. But by and large, we didn't see as many as we used to see in the years gone by. In the budget, obviously, when we talk about allocation of funding to various sectors, security, education, health, usually we see what they are allocated to them. How do you think the funding should be in 2026 to strengthen the security agencies, you know, that are protecting Nigerians? And now that, you know, policemen have been taken from their unofficial duties, if I can put it that way, maybe we have a lot more, you know, people protecting communities. There's an amount budgeted for security, but how do you think it should be distributed? What are the things we should be concentrating on to ensure that these people are properly funded, they're properly equipped, and, you know, and I'm talking across board, across all the agencies.
See, if you look at the way the agencies are, you know, there are those that are under the ministry, and there are those that are directly under the office of the NSA. And like the armed forces now, there is Ministry of Defense that handles their budget. And each of those arm of the armed forces will have sent in, you know, their plans ahead. This is what they feel that they will need. And the police too, there is a ministry responsible for the police, and also the Ministry of Interior for all those paramilitary. And then the intelligence, you know, agencies through the office of the NSA. So the truth is that defense budgets, intelligence budgets, they are classified. You also don't want the enemy to know what you intend to do. And believe me, I know that they must have done the right thing. The assessment must have been done. And see, at times it's not even about how much you are able to get. It's about how you utilize them. You see, one of the best decisions that we've ever experienced in this country was the withdrawal of the policemen from VIP. Yeah, it might not look good for those VIPs, but they didn't die. And that's the truth. They weren't killed. That means that, you know, the same thing they enjoy when they're in London, when they're in the US, is what they're enjoying now. The society is peaceful. Police are everywhere. So you actually don't really need 24 guns following you when everywhere is peaceful. You can actually sleep well. Even when the policeman is too close to you, can even be a danger, you know, to you, because that could be, you know, misfiring or accidental discharge or stuff like that. If you sustain that, and I know that many of the VIPs, as outside those who are tied to, you know, the national economy, you know, the main economic drivers, you know, when they write to the president for approval, they only approve police to be in their house, not to follow them. Do you understand now? So that means that the president is maintaining his position that, let me protect the society, you will be secured. Okay. And some other things we don't know is that the DSS have carried out lots of arrests that we did not even hear in the news. They were not on the news, and those were part of the reason why we are having this palpable peace. And so that says most times about how you use those things. You may have a humongous amount of money, and then you don't channel them, you know, in the right areas. Now we're seeing activities that are producing results. No much noise. Okay. Less noise, but we are seeing results. And that is what is most important.
Okay. Let's go, Stone. We have just about 2 minutes. Prof, what are your last words? And these last words, I'd like you to please speak to us Nigerians in the different parts of Nigeria, in the different states, different localities. What should we do to help ourselves improve security around us?
Well, thanks, Ayo. Look, Nigerians have gone through a lot and are still going through a lot. I heard what the last speaker said. As I said, I'm just going to be cautiously optimistic, and that is because it is too early in the day to actually begin to think that we are okay now. It's peaceful now. Don't forget, the armed robbers also went on Christmas. They wanted to say New Year, to be able to operate in New Year, they should as well. Nigerians have a responsibility, first and foremost, to understand that security is everybody's business. It's not just government's business. Because sometimes we detach and say it's for government. No, it's not for government. We are the primary consumers of business, of security. Government more often than not can actually protect itself at the end of the day. So we need to understand that it's our responsibility. Then number two, we need to, as I said earlier on, hold accountable those who are directly responsible for local administration. That is whether you are governor in your state or you are a local government chairman or even you are councillor in your ward. We must be able to get ourselves together as a community of people living in that society to be able to take these people to task. We've got social media that we can use. We can call them out. We can call out people who are not functioning the way they should be functioning. We should call them out. We should be able to post and so many other things. So that is number two as far as I'm concerned. Then number three is for Nigerians to understand that we are going through a tumultuous period. It's not going to last forever, but it calls into service our continuous reticence, our continuous understanding that the government is doing as much as it should be able to do. And we can still push the government more, of course, because that's what we expect. But we should be able to cooperate better with the government and become less cynical of the government at the end of the day to make sure our government delivers on everything that we want them to deliver. And those are three messages I want for Nigerians.
Well, Dr. Aditayo, your last words.
Last word. Okay, let me just say Happy New Year to Professor Abbas. I'm not sure it's still. We served together at the Lagos State Security Summit.
Oh.
We're part of the technical committee to design security plan for Lagos State. So good to see you again, Professor Abbas. And
same here. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe that if you continue and also with what you're doing and other news media as well, be patriotic, about it the way you guys are doing and asking the right question, bringing the right people to talk about it, and the government actually. And you're surprised that the president watches this program, and it will also help because they also need that feedback beyond what advisors tell them. So I believe that we'll have a better year.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Shea Aditayo is a former ACIS Regional Vice President and Security. He's also a security and intelligence expert. We've also had Professor Ademola Abbas, Professor of International Law and Global Security. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So far this morning, we've talked about the economy, we've talked about security. But guess what? We hear that everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yes.
That's what's coming next.